This is Star Wars Rebels Alert, the weekly podcast after show where we recap and discuss each and every episode of Star Wars Rebels Season 3. I'm your host, Tim.
I'm Troy.
And we're coming at you with a slightly different audio setup this week. We couldn't find the time to actually get together, but we are making the time here to discuss this episode, An Inside Man, episode number 9 of Star Wars Rebels Season 3. And what an episode.
What an episode. It's good to be back. This is Star Wars Rebels in a full effect.
Yes, It is. And I think this feels like a redemption episode. We spent quite a bit of time the last couple of weeks discussing how we feel like these episodes have been lagging from what the initial setup of the season was and coming off the back end of season 2. This finally feels like we're back to a Star Wars Rebels episode that has some impact to the overall narrative, to the overall arc of this story.
Yes, it's Dave Filoni coming back full force, and it feels like with an episode like this, you could have really skipped the last 3 episodes, right? Or the last 4-week episodes, and just gone right into this.
Yeah, you definitely could have. We're back here with the Jedi. We have a huge Imperial presence here. We got our main antagonist making an appearance, and we've got some really impactful moments throughout this that have been building since basically the start of Season 3. Let's get into the discussion here. So this episode itself focuses in around Ezra and Kanan infiltrating a weapons factory on Lothal. Now this is a planet that seems to be somewhat of a nexus for Star Wars Rebels. This is Ezra's home planet, and we seem to revisit this planet time and time again. It has a real Tatooine feel to it, right, kind of for Ezra here.
Yeah, I love this. And, I think this is the first episode we've had with no space battle or space ship them heading down to the action. This is just right into the planet, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you did feel that Imperial space presence here, because Lothal seems to have, every time we revisit, they seem to have a larger and larger military presence.
Yes.
And this occupation of Lothal, I love the fact that they have these kind of almost German-esque banners that are lining the streets, these digital banners. I thought that was a really nice touch, because that's something that's kind of focused in on a bit as we go through even the original trilogy into episode 7, this real kind of Nazi feel. It's not the greatest kind of group of people to be basing your antagonists off of, but at the same time, this is a feel that we see pulled through continually in the original trilogy, episode 7, and I like seeing it here. It kind of really gives you that kind of almost dictatorial sort of feel, right? So this, and how this opens, this is, I think, what really got me into this episode and got this feeling back of Star Wars Rebels, was this opening action sequence. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, this is great. This is so Star Wars. It's Attack the Clones with Return of the Jedi. You got the speeders, you got the lightsabers. This is great. You got the walkers coming in. Just great action sequences, right?
It really was, and I couldn't really get enough of this action sequence. I wanted it to continue, just keep going, and we do get a taste of it a little bit at the end here, but what a way to start an episode. And then we get kind of this really ominous theme at the title sequence that I really did like as well.
Yeah.
Fulcrum becomes somewhat of a focal point in this episode, and we do get a reveal, which we'll discuss a little bit later on here, but he's passing on information about this particular weapons factory, that they're designing some sort of different weapon, some sort of secret weapon. And when I first heard that, when I look at the title, and I'm thinking, okay, they're going to tie into Rogue One here.
Yeah. Big time.
And I thought we were going to go down maybe the path of the Kyber crystals or something to that effect, or even just a small portion of what's going on with the Death Star or some of the fighters that we're going to see in Rogue One. It didn't really go down that path, but I'm okay with what they did here. Well, again, looking at the title, when we're talking about Fulcrum here, and we're talking about an inside man, my first impression of the title was it's referring directly to Ezra and Kanan, or maybe one of these other rebel cells that they do enlist to help them infiltrate this factory.
Right, like Ryder or the other character's name. I can't remember his name, but there's Ryder that kind of joined the team again that we haven't seen since season 2.
Yeah, there's a great presence here again. I really like these characters, and I like this cell that they do have on Lothal here.
Yeah.
What sort of path did you think they're going down with this secret weapon?
I thought Death Star, honestly, right away, because I'm so in Catalyst mode right now, and again, I'm going to plug that book, guys. We're getting closer to Rogue One, so go and check that book. It's great. I'm almost done. But yeah, I thought it was going to be some kind of Death Star reference, because I feel like we are getting closer to Rogue One. We're going to see some characters pop up, like a Saw Gerrera or a Krennic maybe. Like, I'd really like to see those characters pop up. So I thought it was going to be a Death Star, but I guess that's a little too on the nose.
It is, but I think at the same time, we know that from the Catalyst book that this construction of the Death Star has been going on since basically the Clone Wars, right?
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, exactly. So having that in there, that little nod, I think would have, at least for me, it would have tied this even more into that Rogue One. It got me a little bit more excited for what's going on here. The fact that they're kind of tipping their hat at the fact, even if it's just a small little portion of what we're going to see in Rogue One and nothing really impactful for the movie, I really would have liked that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Would have been a nice little nod there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so like we said at the top here, it's Ezra and Kanan. They enlist these other rebels to help them infiltrate this secret facility, or this weapons facility, where they have enlisted people from Lothal to help meet the demand. And this seems to be somewhat of the downfall, because it appears that they are sabotaging the speeder bikes and the walkers that are being created. And we do see that in the opening sequence here when he says, I'm going to take it to 90, and they end up seeing the battery overheating on the speeder bike. Really cool too.
Oh, what a great scene that was, because we haven't seen this Thrawn for this whole season yet, and to see him so focused on proving a point, right, with that character being taken out. I know we've talked seasons before where we need to see a death kind of happen, and granted this wasn't kids, so that's always good that they didn't go that, but it was good to see that Thrawn is willing to go that way to prove a point, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we're seeing here for the first time, we've been discussing for a couple weeks now that we need to see Thrawn do something that shows how relentless he is. And I think this really does that. You take the speeder bike incident from the start of the episode, and then we move into the fact where Thrawn is present here and he's investigating. And I think there's a little more to this, because when he first came in and said, I'm here to investigate a possible saboteur or something that's kind of gone awry within this weapons factory, I'm thinking, this seems like it's below Thrawn.
Yeah, right.
I was confused as to why he's there, and then we see Callus and Governor Price show up, which is another interesting thing. I thought, this doesn't really make sense to me right now, and I think as the story developed, I think it really pushes forward Thrawn's narrative, because I think this is a lot more diabolical than is actually fully revealed within this. We're seeing the strategist come to the surface here, and he's not here to investigate a saboteur or whatever. It's to draw out the Phoenix Cell rebels, I think.
That's right, to find that inside man.
Exactly, and him killing this character, who happens to be an old friend of Ezra's, that's a pretty impactful moment, I think, there.
It really is, especially because the show does such a good job of introducing the audience to this character and showing a relationship between Ezra and him. So when he does get taken out, you really feel something there for this character, right?
Exactly, and that's what we've been looking for, right? That's what we've discussed the last couple of weeks, is the fact that he needs to show that he's willing to kill people. He's willing to make those type of decisions and almost show his cards at a time, to prove the point that this is the Grand Admiral Thrawn that we are familiar with from the Legends line. I think they finally did it here. They pulled the trigger on that, and he showed that he's willing. We've heard the hearsay of it, but this really shows that he's willing to go the distance to either capture the rebels or to prove a point.
Yes.
And I really like that. And one of the things that was somewhat priceless here, and almost a giveaway when you tie in the title here, was Callus's face when he does almost execute this rebel, right?
Right. Yeah, I noticed that.
And we have Price just grinning here too, right? Two totally different reactions. And I think at that moment for me, it's been completely telegraphed. This has been something that's been building since the end of season 2. This is one of the worst kept secrets, I think, in Star Wars Rebels, that Callus is Fulcrum.
Right.
And that does get revealed a little later on in the episode. But I'm kind of happy how they approach this here. They kind of built it up a bit. And then when he does show up to kind of rescue them, I'm kind of like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, which is interesting because it kind of, I don't know if it necessarily backs up my theory. Is he going to be the character that maybe takes out Thrawn, or is Thrawn going to take him out? Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Thrawn seems to kind of be on Callus, obviously, now, right?
Definitely. And even as we kind of go through the episode here, you do see Callus probing Thrawn and Governor Price a bit about the secret program that he's not really aware of. And all she really reveals is that it is some sort of new fighter that Thrawn is developing. It's a new fighter initiative, right?
Right.
And so I thought that was kind of interesting, too, because, again, I really didn't think that there was actually a Section A2 fighter division initiative. I thought it was all about drawing in the rebels.
Yeah.
As we step into seeing a bit more Thrawn here, we're seeing classic Thrawn here. We've got the art, he's studying it, the history of the Phoenix symbol itself, and this really shows the effort that the writers and producers are putting into Thrawn here and projecting what he was from the post-Return of the Jedi era into the new canon here. And I just love, I was pausing all the time trying to see what I could see on the individual art pieces to see if there's any little Easter eggs in there. But when he starts discussing about what this symbol means and what it means particularly for Lothal, right? Where the birth of this cell almost took place, right?
And that's a great scene too, because I mean, obviously we get to see like the artist Timothy Zahn's character come to life, but we do get to see Shamsudullah, obviously, and Hera. Yeah. But we do see the Grand Inquisitor's original helmet. I believe at least that is his, because that's what he wore in the Clone Wars, right? So that's awesome. And then we did see that in season 2, obviously, when he was kind of had that Jedi meditation scene with Kanan.
Yeah.
That same helmet. So that was a cool callback there.
Yeah, it was a nice little piece to see in the episode there. And it's interesting, too, because when he's discussing about the art here, he really deduces this idea that the Rebel cell, particularly the Phoenix cell, has a particular attachment to Lothal. And again, I'm getting more and more of the feeling that this is all a setup. This is a trap, right? A part of me, too, because we kind of see it towards the end, is that I feel at times, and I thought this was a bit more with this A2, the Secret Initiative, that he was feeding Callus false information.
Okay, yeah.
To kind of route out kind of the mole, if you will, right?
Yes.
And I think that we're going to see a little more of this, and him almost using Callus to his advantage now, and feeding the rebels false information. And eventually, I think this is how it's going to, either Callus is going to sacrifice himself to make up for a mistake that he made by passing on incorrect information, or we're going to see what you've talked about quite a few times, is this is how we're going to see kind of this battle between Callus and Thrawn come to a head eventually down the line.
That's right. With this episode, do you think Callus's turn was a little too quick? I mean, with his reveal, do you think Callus making this huge decision to become Fulcrum is a little out of nowhere? I mean, I know we got that episode with Zeb, but that's all we really had. To make this Imperial now want to join forces with the Rebels, do you think that's a little sudden?
I'll answer you kind of in two ways here. I think that, his turn maybe hasn't been explored enough. You almost want to get a feeling that he's had an experience within the Empire, like we've seen in Lost Stars now, where we see, characters being executed, or like Finn in Episode 7, right? Where they're being asked to do something that morally they cannot do. And we haven't really seen that from Callus. He did have that experience with Zeb. But at the same time, I feel like because everyone knew it was coming, it was telegraphed for so many episodes, I feel like that they just kind of pulled the trigger and said, look, we're not going to drag this on. This is going to be a massive reveal. We're going to let the characters be surprised about it, but the audience, we're not going to pull this out and make this a multi-episode arc where we're trying to find out who Fulcrum is. I'm happy they pulled the trigger on it, but at the same time, I agree with you that the motivation just doesn't seem to be there as much as maybe you'd like it to be there. There's a lot to say for what's happening off screen, and you do see his reaction when Thrawn executes the rebel there. So you're starting to build that he has some sympathy and he's not completely aligned with the tactics of Thrawn. And so you can kind of get there. But do you think he's actually going to go full rebel and actually desert the Empire and become a member of the Phoenix Cell or a member of the larger rebellion eventually? Or do you think he's just going to be probably eventually killed off before that actually happens?
I think he's going to be killed off. Yeah, I think he's going to be killed off because that's the thing, right? I mean, because they haven't given us enough to see his full turn and his reasons for doing so, apart from him being with Zeb. I think he's just going to be a character that's simply killed off. Probably by the end of the season, if he is to take out Thrawn or not, right? Yeah. Maybe he sacrifices himself on a ship, taking Thrawn down with him. But at the same time, we haven't seen enough of this Thrawn to kill this character off this season. I think after seeing this, I think we will get another season of Thrawn.
Oh, I fully agree. I think they'll make a big mistake if they don't go that direction. And I agree with you. I think Callus is going to have a redemptive story where he does make up for his sins in the past, being part of the Empire, and maybe doing things that maybe morally aren't aligned with what you would expect from a human.
Right.
But I do think he's going to get his day to shine, but I think it will be a sacrifice.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
So it is nice to see him showing up and seeing Ezra and Kanan when they do end up in a bit of trouble. When they are, I like that they're back in the disguises again. I always like to see rebels dressing up in stormtroopers and scout trooper outfits.
Yeah, and what a great scene that was when Ezra, used the Force push on Callus. I loved it. Best scene of that whole episode, actually, in my opinion. I love that.
I fully agree with you there. And Kanan's reaction too, when he yells at him, you're like, oh, he's pissed, and then he's like, I wanted to do that.
Because he's an asshole, right? I mean, Callus has been pretty bad since season 1, right? So this is kind of like the Rebels' chance to get back at the character a little bit. So,
and then again, coming back to the idea that we've seen Thrawn continually let the rebels go. And it's in this episode that he finally tasks the Empire or his Imperial soldiers to actually take out Ezra and Kanan. I don't know if he's fully aware that the Jedis are present, but when we do see the AT-ATs released and they're having that battle in the Walker, and the AT-AT actually kneels, which is a really cool scene too. I've never seen that before.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
So this is another turn that we've been waiting for Thrawn, is to him actively pursue and try to execute the rebel cell here. He knows it's Phoenix cell here, and he's out there trying to kill them, which is a turn again. So we're seeing change in the character of Thrawn into the character that we've been asking for the last 5-6 episodes, right?
Yeah.
So what did you think of the reveal here of this secret fighter initiative?
I didn't really care that much for it. What are your thoughts? I know you're more of the ship kind of person when it comes to Star Wars. So what did you think of that?
Yeah, so when I first saw it, because I only saw the top-down view, and it looks like from a top-down view, the TIE Striker that is going to show up in Rogue One. And I was super stoked about that. I was like, okay, this explains what's going on, why we haven't seen the TIE Striker before. It was a secret ship, and then the plant was destroyed or whatever. But it turns out it's actually, I believe it's a TIE Defender. And if you look at it from a front profile, it actually has kind of 3 different segments to it, each with 2 panels on it. And I believe the TIE Defender, I think it's canon. I think it shows up in one of the board games or maybe an iOS game. I can't remember, but it's a ship that actually was from the Legends series. I believe it shows up in some computer games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm not completely familiar with the ship itself. All I know is that I think it had a hyperdrive. It was loaded with weapons. It had shields, as they mentioned in this episode. So I'm not sure exactly what direction they're going to go with this. I'd love to see it actually in flight in space. Yeah. But again, it's something that they're adding to the canon here from the Legend series. Like I said, I think it technically is canon, but I think this is going to be the first appearance in some sort of either cartoon or live action that we're getting it kind of reinserted back into canon proper here.
That's so awesome, because I got to give credit to Dave Filoni and their team, because they keep bringing more Legend characters and properties into the show. Ever since Ahsoka from season 2 said, there is some truth behind Legends, it feels like that's kind of been their thing, their niche now, where they're always bringing in Legends through this cartoon series. So I really like what they've done with Dash Rendar's ship last time, and then we've had some Old Republic stuff, Malachor 5 show up, and now we also have the ship, right? So this is, I like what they're doing here. Yeah,
I agree. I hope we get to see at least a prototype flying around. I have a feeling that in the near future here, we're going to see them destroy the plant, and maybe that's why we never see this ship into the original trilogy timeline. But me personally, I would have really liked for them to have used the TIE Striker and tie that into the larger Rogue One story. To be like, this is why we never saw the TIE Striker in the original trilogy timeline, because the plant was destroyed by the Rebels and a few prototypes got off the ground and they were destroyed in Rogue One. So that's why we never see them. I thought that would have been a really cool tie. To just kind of say here, it's kind of like some of the nodding that they do in the MCU with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. It's like, oh, hey, Agent Coulson gave Nick Fury the helicarrier for Age of Ultron. It kind of has really no impact on the overall story, but it's a nice time. It does a little bit of explaining when you're kind of sitting there like, where does this ship come from? And, okay, that ties into Rebels, and that's why we never saw them in the original timeline.
Exactly, especially because I think we're maybe 2 episodes away from getting to Rebels.
Yeah.
I know time periods are different, but it would be cool, like I said a little bit earlier, to get a little more connection to Rogue One, because obviously Krennic and Galen and these characters, they're in the background, right? It would be neat to see something referenced with Rebels and Rogue One pop up pretty soon, because how cool would it be to see the last winter break or mid-season episode, and then you go watch Rebels or Rogue One next, right? So
I know we're clamoring for it here, man. We want to see just that little nod, something that doesn't even have to have any impact on the overall arc of Rebels or anything really to do with Rogue One, other than the fact it's like just a tip of the hat towards that.
Exactly.
So, and then our final sequence here, where we do see an interaction between Kallus, Governor Pryce, and Thrawn. We've seen Ezra and Kanan escape, and so the nice conclusion, nice action piece at the end of the episode. But I really like what Kallus says here. He says, your strategy is without flaw, Grand Admiral, as always. Like, how great of a way for him to leave that. And I really think that Thrawn knows, like, it's almost telegraphed there again, the fact that he knows what and who Callus is.
Absolutely agree there, right?
Yeah, and I feel like this is, again, like I said a little earlier, that this is going to be Thrawn using Callus now. He understands who he is, and I still think this episode was much more than actually the rebels infiltrating to find out about this new TIE fighter. I think it was about Thrawn drawing in the rebels and understanding what he could get away with Callus and feeding him false information and just playing a bit of this, like, I'm going to give you this information to see if it gets back to me. Like, I really think he's going to use Callus going forward here.
Yeah.
Overall, this episode was, like we said, a real return to form for Rebels. It was nice to see, a self-contained story, but that also had major impact for the overall narrative and drove character development like crazy through this with Callus, with Thrawn, even with Ezra and Kanan. I think we saw a lot of developing here in a single 22-minute episode, right?
Yeah, it's great to see Ezra and Kanan back together because we've been lacking that for so long. We've been lacking Kanan for so long, and it was good that we got the right Ezra this time because, like I said, this season they've been jumping back and forth with Ezra's character, whether he's immature or mature. This was the mature Ezra that you could say even had the leadership role, right? Yeah. So it's really good to see them go back to what they started off with season 3's opener.
And they finally feel like Jedi again here, I found.
Yeah, and that's a great scene too with the walkers when they brought up the lightsabers.
Yeah.
Cut them and awesome.
Yeah, using the Force on Callus and using tactics and doing a little bit more of this master Padawan type relationship where they're working together. Like, I got a real vibe of, I finally feel like we're back in a Jedi story again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's
and also found that the Empire seemed a lot more competent in this episode. They weren't kind of like bumbling idiots, right?
Yeah.
So, and we see Thrawn, he's more ruthless. We see his tactical nature coming. This is definitely one of the best episodes of the season, I'd have to say.
It really is. It's a return to home for the series, right? This is good. We've been needing this. I've been needing this.
Yeah, I agree.
Those last episodes were a little rocky, and this again adds to, when you binge watch a show, when you get the Blu-rays, this is a nice episode to come back to when you're just going hard at the whole series, right?
Yeah, I feel like we have the momentum now, and they're going to carry that through for the next couple episodes into the mid-season break. And I think we're going to get something big. Like this, I think, is just that uptick, that little injection of adrenaline that we needed in this show. We finally got the Thrawn. I'm so happy with what they did with Thrawn in this episode. I feel like we're off to a great mid-season finale, great cliffhanger coming, and I'm really excited for going forward here.
Yeah, completely agree. Going forward, I know you're in the Callus mode. I'm in the Callus mode. We're in the Rogue One mode. We got that fever going on. Any characters you could predict popping up in the next couple episodes?
Oh, reading Callus and all that, I feel like we could maybe see a Saw Gerrera or maybe one of these other rebels that we're going to see. But I don't know if they're going to go that far because they have to develop these characters a bit more in Rogue One, right? I'd love for them just to even maybe drop a K2SO, but not K2SO, just that type of droid, that Imperial droid.
That's all we need.
Yeah. Something like that. There was, I don't know, I had to go back and take a look at the action figures, but there was that black astromech, and I'm thinking, C2B5, right? That we're going to see something towards that character, or at least a black Imperial astromech that has some sort of significance in the movie, the fact that we got an action figure. But again, I have to think we got a Constable Zuvio from episode 7, and he wasn't in the movie, so who knows? But, or even I'm thinking, like, even one of these like hover tank drivers or Scarif Trooper or something that's going to be revealed in Rogue One for the first time. Just have some of those guys walking around in the back. I don't know, something like that. I think would really kind of just get me my pulse, and just that whole idea of continuity and building a universe. That's what we love, and I think something like that, just a tip. That's all we're asking for, guys.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. I'm with you. I'd like to see a Saw Gerrera or even just a mention of Galen or so working on something, right?
Yeah.
That's all.
Or even a mention of the larger Death Star project, some hint towards there's something bigger going on. Or even in the Callus books, we see a lot of these worlds that are being mined, reference to the fact that the legacy worlds are being decimated. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
So,
no, that'd be great. I like that idea with the mining planets. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're kind of just nitpicking here a bit. We're looking for these ties because that's what we love to see in these universes. We're big fans of the Marvel continuity and the universe there, and we're huge fans of the Star Wars continuity and the universe that they are building there. And they're taking such care of this. And like you said earlier, Troy, they're going back in the Legend series and pulling on things that have already been developed by great minds, by people who love Star Wars. So I love to see that they're including big pieces of the Legends series, the Legends line, into this new canonical universe, and it really makes you feel like they respect the source material, they respect what came before them, and they're using that. So it's great to see.
Yeah, completely agree. My thoughts exactly. Yeah.
So, all right, guys, we are on full countdown mode to Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. It's coming in 2 weeks' time. We've got our tickets. Hopefully, you guys got your tickets too. We're going to be doing a full review of the Catalyst book, which is the prelude to Rogue One, on our other podcast, The Nerd Room, in just a couple weeks. So this coming week, we're going to be discussing the new Guardians trailer, which is awesome. And the following week, just before Rogue One drops, we're going to do a full preview show for Rogue One. We're going to be discussing Catalyst a bit, making some of our predictions, and trying to tie a bit of what we've seen in this book into the larger Star Wars universe and where we think it's actually going to set the scene for Rogue One. We're going to try to do it as spoiler-free as possible. We're not really watching any more of the trailers. We did a trailer review of the final trailer. I finally broke my I'm not watching trailer kind of rule. We watched it. It was awesome. I loved it. So go check that out. That was our episode 50, our big celebration episode. We did a huge Star Wars mega episode where we discussed action figures, Lost Stars, the novel, and episode 8 predictions. Talked a bit about Rey's lineage. So go check that out. And make sure you always tune in on Thursdays to our other podcast, The Nerd Room, to catch all sorts of other Star Wars news.
Awesome. Good stuff. We're in the month of Star Wars right now. December 15th, 16th is going down. Rogue One. Can't wait. We've got lots of coverage going on with Star Wars, guys. So keep it locked here on the Nerd Room.
If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can always grab us at SW Rebels Alert on Twitter or at swrebelsalert@gmail.com. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, we'd like to hear your theories, and we'd like to see how you'd like to see Star Wars Rebels tie into Rogue One, or how you feel it's tying into the larger Star Wars universe and pulling on the continuity. All right, guys, until next week, enjoy the week of Star Wars, the month of Star Wars, get into Catalyst. Make sure you check out Star Wars Rebels next week, because we are going to be back discussing the 10th episode of Star Wars Rebels Season 3.
Awesome. Good stuff, guys.
All right. This is Star Wars Rebels Alert. I'm Tim.
I'm Troy.